Welcome into the show here at How to Buy a Home podcast. We don't just like to give you theories and philosophies. We like to give you real stories. This is Kyle, Carla, and 11-month-old Hayden. Hayden makes a special guest appearance on the podcast, so listen up for that. But most importantly, you're going to hear the story about how this young family, they figured out how to get the right team to help them go over everything, their finances, their planning, so that they could figure out a strategy to buy a home out of the area that they were living in. Oh, and did I mention Carla was 9 and 10 months pregnant at the time that they bought the home? Yeah, so for those of you out there who haven't had kids yet, I didn't know that either when I was a new dad. But yeah, apparently you can be 10 months pregnant. And apparently with the right team, you can buy a home. Just like everything in the home buying process, the more planning you do ahead of time, you'll be amazed at what you can accomplish. But that's enough of me talking about it. Let's hear their story.
How to Buy a Home educates, protects, and connects first-time homebuyers to qualified vetted realtors in their area. Whether you're looking for DIY information or step-by-step guidance, How to Buy a Home is the #1 resource for first-time homebuyers.
Hey, everybody, it's David Sidoni, and if you hear the noise in the background, that's because we're talking to an 11-month-old, almost 11-month-old, who's a proud new homeowner. I'm very excited. Hi, Hayden. Thank you so much for joining us. We've got Hayden, Carla, and Kyle, who reached out to me. Yes, Hayden's throwing raspberry shade already. I love it. That's what Hayden thinks about rent payments. So you guys reached out to me January of 2025, got into a home, I have, what is that, May 2nd of 2025? So congratulations. I'm assuming we're in the new home now, yes?
That's correct. Yep.
Okay, well, tell us about it. We like to get your biggest tip first and then kind of go through your story so everybody else can learn from your journey. So what's your biggest tip in the whole home buying process?
Yeah, I think biggest tip, honestly, is dealing with a local realtor, that knows the area, knows the school districts, the taxes, and just getting that, because one thing that was pretty impactful for us is we were shopping from for a home 2 hours away from where we currently live. So having that knowledge of, the good areas, the good school districts, amenity locality was just, I think, essential. To have that knowledge going into the whole process.
Yeah, 2 hours away creates, it doesn't feel like a lot, but boy, I'm trying to do the math here. Hayden's 11 months. You reached out to me in January. Carla, where were you in the whole pregnancy process of January to May of 2025?
Right around 9 months, 10 months pregnant.
Third trimester, because he was born April. Yeah, so that May 2nd was our original closing date. And then we went through a final walkthrough, and we can get into this probably later. We actually had a delay closing. May 2nd was a Friday. May 5th was a Monday. So we had a delay closing for the whole weekend. And that's a whole part of the journey, too. So we got to stay here for the weekend with a 2-week-old.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. Yes, Hayden, I know you were a big part of the story. We're gonna put that on hold and work our way chronologically to that.
Right.
But I appreciate the fact that we're less than 5 minutes in and you've already exemplified the thing that I say all the time, that closing dates are fluid.
Very much.
Wow. Well, Carla, how was the home buying process for you, considering the fact that you started in the second trimester and got to the end in your, I just want to know, talk to me about this, girl. What was it like?
Well, clearly mom brain is a thing as well as pregnancy brain was. But it was, I would say, a little bit of not necessarily a challenge, but just getting prepared, trying to think about like all the, the ands, ifs, and buts that come with bringing in a child to your family. It caused a few more, I guess we'll say, thoughts about like what type of home we want, where we're going to be regarding school district and like all that aspect. And especially with the transition from moving 2+ hours away, kind of thinking in perspective, like, okay, if I have the child and then we're going to have to move with the newborn, everything, how that process is going to go. So it was a lot to kind of think in big picture, but I would say in the moment, it was kind of like, okay, is this something that we want to officially move on, or is this something that it's better to kind of hold on and like kind of take a step back and reposition our thought process? Luckily, that wasn't for me. So it made the drive a little bit easier. But he also leaned on our like realtor and everyone part of his team while we were kind of away if we found a property we liked to kind of mitigate some of the travel need be.
Okay, well let's jump right into that, and then I'll jump back to the planning process because I'm really curious about it.
Okay.
This happens all the time with people, whether they're moving across the country or whether they're moving, across the state like you guys were. If it's not close, what were some of the tips and the things that you found most helpful once you got through all your pre-planning? And, how do you search for houses when you can't just jump in your car and drive 10 minutes and go look at houses?
What we did is Kyle specifically would always look on the like different sites, make sure that there's some that we kind of agreed upon, whether it be, oh, we like this area because we explored the area a little bit beforehand. So we kind of knew generally Colorado Springs spots, but then you would reach out and ultimately he had a team or our realtor would go ahead and kind of say, you know what, let's go ahead and get a showing. We'll like FaceTime or we'll send you videos if you're not available and figure out if it's something that we needed to come in for, or kind of take the extra step of saying like, you know what, let's plan a whole day and see these 3 different sites or whatever it be.
Yeah. So like on top of that, like one of our first meetings with the realtor you introduced, we basically asked to see houses kind of all around Colorado Springs to do like a full circle to explore the areas, the different school districts, what all is around. And so that was really helpful. One, just to getting to know the area, getting to know our realtor. So I spent 8 hours in a car with him. And then, then we would come down. We probably came down 3 weekends total and would just have slam full days of looking at houses. So we tried to make the most of our time when we did travel.
Wow. Yeah. So you guys went to one of our unicorn teams out there.
Mm-hmm.
Who was the unicorn you were working with?
Yeah, it was Brian and Lana Rodriguez.
That's right. It was Brian. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So we mostly worked with Brian, but Lana came in too.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the thing that we're trying to make sure people understand is that, if you work with a team, you have to make sure that everyone is experienced and understanding. And my gosh, that you guys getting the 3-hour trips, the 8-hour trips for your day, that's a great way. So you were purposefully, geographically planning them and eyes out the window when you were driving from place to place.
Exactly. Yep. And then, as we came down more, we're like, got more familiar with what neighborhoods, we were kind of thinking about and could just be a little more strategic each time we did come down.
We'll get back to that then. So let's go back to the beginning. We're in 2024. You guys are living 2 hours away from Colorado Springs. You're attempting to get pregnant and then getting pregnant. And then what led you in the middle of pregnancy to reach out early January 2025? What was your process and why'd you guys want to move 2 hours away?
Right. So there's a lot to unpack there. So the whole story, and I kind of mentioned this when I reached out to you. So we were in a place in our lives where we knew where, what we wanted, where we were going. And then it just all happened a lot sooner than we expected. And so in about August, we figured out we were expecting. But a week before that, I actually broke both my hands mountain biking.
Oh, yeah.
So we had all this, and then, I had a little more time, once we found out we were expecting. And what we ultimately came down to is we wanted to move to a place that's a little more family oriented, a little more affordable than we currently were. And we looked at it as we had 3 options. My family's from Georgia, hers is from Texas. So we either move back to one of those places or we stay in Colorado where we currently were. And, after going through our, what our must-haves are and what we, did not want, we decided Colorado just because of the outdoorsy activities. We wanted to raise our child in a place if he didn't want to be in front of TV, we could kick him outside and there's things to do. So once we decided Colorado, it was, okay, we have to find a place that has job opportunities in case one of us lost our jobs. And so that kind of led to 3 places. It was Fort Collins, Denver, and Colorado Springs. And we've visited each of those locations, once in a blue moon. And we just ultimately decided Colorado Springs because it had a bigger biking community.
Wow. And that, okay, now it's my turn. So much to unpack on that. So without me being snarky and telling the people who reach out to me and say, I really want to buy a house, but I have this super big work project coming up in 6 months. Mm-hmm. So, see you, Hayden. I know work projects are sad.
Sorry.
And they say they're too busy. Mm-hmm. What did you guys do? Because you were so what did you guys do to the people who tell me they're too busy because they have little things on their plate? And you guys are uprooting your family completely and dealing with a pregnant person in the partnership. What was the pre-planning that you did to make you, first of all, want to reach out, and then second of all, make you decide to even keep going through it?
Yeah, that's a good question. As far as the pre-planning, I think the biggest thing was us being on the same page. And, that we want to settle down, we want to buy a home, have a place to raise a kid. And because of that, you can make time. There's a lot of hours in the day. It can obviously feel a lot shorter when you have all these things on your plate. And where we kind of came down to is like every evening after, before Hayden's, after we worked our jobs, had dinner, instead of turning on the TV, we would look at homes. And then, as we get more familiar, again, it's kind of like everybody on your podcast, right? We don't know what to do. So I Googled how to buy a home, came across your podcast and started listening to you there. And that gave us, more confidence. We're like, okay, we have a better understanding. And they're like, let's just reach out to him and see what happens. Maybe he has a unicorn in the area we're looking. And we did. And again, don't want to jump the gun or, stay in your chronological order.
No, that's great because that's a big part of it. And Carla, for you, did you find that when you were pregnant, did you have unexpected downtime during that period where you could kind of window shop online, or was pregnancy a whole extra bag of crazy for you?
Luckily I had a pretty smooth pregnancy. So I every now and then kind of had the time. I will say Carla took the head of that and would send some in the morning or kind of compile a list and we go through it in the afternoon. But every now and then I would hop on and kind of take a peek or look at, I would say more so the school districts and kind of figure out a little bit about that. And kind of, we'll say, intertwine both of those.
Where were you guys set up on the budgeting before you came into this whole? Because you got connected with the unicorns in January, and you were shopping pretty quickly there. Had you guys done financial stuff on your own? You purchased. It's not a small place. It was almost 500,000, 475, right?
Yes, 475 is what we closed with.
Yeah. Okay. So how much budgeting did you do before you talked to the team, and how much changed after you were talking to the Unicorn Squad?
Budgeting wise, we both kind of made a plan to set aside, roughly 25,000 and put a little safety net in that. And we kind of prepared for not only obviously medical bills coming in with having Hayden, but also making sure we had a little, we'll say leeway for moving down as well as putting down a down payment. So we kind of had a target, and we got that and felt comfortable with everything else we had as a nice flex.
So when you came in, did you find different and new creative options, or had you saved enough that you came in and you kind of the realtor and the lender kind of pushed you down the path that you were already expecting to go, as far as your down payment and your monthly payment and all that stuff?
I'd say they helped us make sure that we stayed on a path that we were comfortable with moving forward.
Yeah, to add to that, some unique things that maybe some of your listeners would find value is we were really open and honest with our realtor and our lender about our money situation and priorities. And with the newborn and everything that is just, out, who knows what's going to happen, the unknown, we had to prioritize cash flow. And so I know maybe Dave Ramsey and some of the other podcasters, they may cringe at this. But one thing that we did was we actually, our offer included built-in concessions to cover our closing costs. So it was less money that we had to pay upfront for the house. So the house was really listed at $467. We offered $475 and included in our offer $8,000 in closing costs, just to save us, again, the cash flow aspect.
So getting real estate nerdy on that for the listeners who don't understand, when the house is listed at 460 something and you offer 475, doesn't automatically mean that you get that back even when you do your first, if everybody agrees to it. Because what has to happen is the home has to appraise for that value, for the seller to have that value, because your offer is contingent upon your loan. But the fact that you were doing that ahead of time, what happens a lot of times is people will see a house that they love and they'll go, can we stretch for it? And then the realtor will say, only if we can get some seller concessions because you guys don't have enough money.
Right.
That's doing it backwards. And, I don't know where you heard it. I am so loving the Hayden soundtrack. It is awesome.
Sorry.
No. I love it. That's the whole point. I want people to hear what it's really like to buy a home when you're pregnant and living in a home with an infant. This is the reality of it. And it's like I said, I'll get a little snarky for the people who are like, I don't understand all this concession and cashback stuff. Yeah, well, they explained it to me with a toddler. So it's not that hard. So what did you guys end up putting as a down payment? What percentage did you guys come in at?
Yep. So 3.5. And again, our realtors know we could do more than that, up to 5 or 6 of the home range that we were looking at. But again, just to prioritize cash flow, they helped us look at, okay, what's your monthly difference between putting 3.5 down to get FHA loan or putting down 5 or 6? How does that impact the now and moving forward? And it ultimately just meant, us putting down 3.5, the extra 1.5% didn't make that much of a difference in the monthly to motivate us to forfeit extra cash in the present.
The extra 1.5 that you would have put down would have saved you maybe $100 a month, but would have cost you thousands in cash immediately for a new young family.
Yep.
I'm so glad, because that's such a difficult thing for me to articulate to people. So then, before we get to the closing, throughout the process, either from the financial side or the home shopping side, what were some of the things that maybe you weren't ready for, or some of the stuff that you thought, ooh, this would be cool to tell people about? With the whole process, figuring out your loan, figuring out your cash flow, looking at houses with my God 8 hours and pregnancy, or that must have been a whole thing. Tell us your secrets.
Honestly, having a good realtor was one of the keys to success there. We obviously never bought a home. Our family, both our parents live in the home they bought in the 90s. So nobody in our family has bought a home in recent times that could give us the advice of, okay, this is what it looks like today. And so it was great having a realtor who would sit down with us and just define the terms. And again, your podcast obviously helped with our baseline knowledge, but him helping us through. And one of the big surprises, we kind of thought before all this wealth of knowledge was, you go under contract, everything happens right at closing, you get the home. We didn't understand, if you have 4 weeks, there's something happening every 3 or 4 days. And then, what each, timeline means, what deadline, and then when are you absolutely locked in, there's no backing out. So that was an interesting learning curve going into it.
Yeah, you spend all this time pre-planning and figure everything out, and then you get into what I call the whirlwind tornado of 30 days. And I mean, and pregnant. No, I mean, my gosh, Carla, I'm bowing to you. I'm just
Thank you. This is very sweet.
Well, it's a full-time job, and in that process, and people will think that when they're out and looking at houses that they're so concerned about all that, and I'm like, oh, just wait, you got more coming. What were the things that when you did boots on the ground, that for you, were there things that fell off your kind of nice to have list, and were there things that were added to your must have once you actually were walking through the homes?
I think, there were some that we kind of figured out a little bit more specifics as we continue to look around. In Colorado Springs, we found a lot of split levels. And that was one thing where we decided, okay, well, if it's a split level, it needs to be able to have like a bathroom for shared spaces, or we kind of ended up leaning towards more of a ranch style that has everything just directly when you walk in, and then garage kind of became, we'll say, secondhand to some extent. Yeah.
Because if you ask me when we were shopping, like I would have loved to have a 3-door garage, and like it was just below like a must-have, and that was one thing that ended up dropping off because that kind of put you in a different price point in our area.
Yeah.
Same style. Like, is there a ranch 2-car garage and a ranch 3-car garage price point?
It was kind of hit or miss. You see the 3-car garages kind of more in the, I don't want to say like upper end of Colorado Springs, again, the higher end. You could find some in our price point, but that means maybe, not an ideal location or less updated. So it was either like you kind of broke the budget going to 3-car garage, or you sacrificed in other areas trying to find it.
Mm-hmm. And the split level thing, that's a really interesting conversation. And I think I always tell people, if you're going to buy a split level, don't just do it at one time at the open house. Go in there, walk up and down the stairs multiple times, and really understand that you want that. And so it was important that you first started with that, and then you got to, your compromise. The things that maybe you thought were deal breakers. What were the things that were attractive about this place that Kyle sacrificed his extra garage space for?
It is a place that we can grow into, so that kind of became another aspect. We were starting off with maybe a little bit smaller of a home, kind of looking square footage wise just through the websites, and we decided that this home that we found did have some age to it, but ultimately it was stuff that we could move in ready, but slowly chip away at as we either got more funds saved or kind of decided, okay, well, we actually want to change X, Y, and Z. So it became more of like a house we could grow into than a starter home. And then just little things that didn't, in a sense, cause an eyesore, but were like things that we could fix. Like, for example, like aged cabinets in the kitchen and little maybe like things here and there with like paint or rooms.
Popcorn ceiling.
Yeah, popcorn ceilings. Yeah, things like that.
So let me do my interpretation. Did I get this right? You decided to pick a more dated or not upgraded, but you got larger square footage?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. So Colorado Springs, like a lot of Colorado towns, it's an older community, been here since the 1800s, started as a mining community. And you kind of have two options. You can go out east and you're in like the newer neighborhoods, newer homes, but they're all, really close together, not a lot of yards. Or you can buy kind of in the interior. And those are like the homes built in like the 50s, 60s, and 70s, more, aged communities, larger trees, bigger yards. And it's the trade-off, especially at our price point. Those were kind of the two options.
For anyone buying in the suburbs who's never done this before, newer homes means smaller backyards. Period.
That is true.
And was a yard part of something that you were interested in? Or when you're talking about growing into the place, are you talking about expanding the place?
More so family. I would say, if anything, we're going to expand the garage for Kyle.
Yeah.
But what we really, I guess, couldn't pass up is our backyard is a small rectangle, but we have a whole park that backs up to that small rectangle, and we can see the elementary that Hayden will eventually go to. So just pretty much great wide open space where we can pretty much do any and all things outside, whether it be take them to school, whether it be go to the playground or play various field, games and things like that.
Wait, is there a fence between your yard and the park?
I like to call it a moat, but there's a storm drain and we have a little bridge. So after, I guess, the back of our backyard, there's that storm drain and we have a gate that we walk across, I don't know, like a yard bridge. And then we're on a trail and it backs up to the park. And then to the left's an elementary school. And about 1.5 miles away is Palmer Park. If you're familiar with that, it's just a big central city park. So definitely all the outdoor activities kind of right there.
So the king and the queen shopped for a castle for their prince, and now you have a moat.
Yeah, exactly.
And the cool thing about that is there's a great little area in Southern California where I've been selling houses for years, and it backs to a park like that. And I love it because you can have family over and just, send them over the moat and they can go have a family football game or whatever, because your yard is your yard, but you're right next to a park. That's so cool.
Yeah, it's definitely a selling point. And as we've kind of explored the neighborhood a little bit more, we found out that Village 7 was built, and our neighbor told us this, but we walked around. It's built and it has greenways to where a child can walk to a high school, a middle school, and obviously the elementary right there without having to cross a busy road. So we ended up finding out that there's a bunch of different like hidden parks around the neighborhoods as you continue to expand and kind of walk on this little greenway path.
Wow. So who knew you guys had the goal of that outdoorsy place? And then this one, check that box times 100 without you having to drive 5 minutes. It's all right there out your back door.
Yes, exactly. So can't really pass that up. And even if there are some, we'll say, funky little things that we'll eventually work on to update the house, is something you can't ever turn up for that opportunity.
I see a lot of realtors that tell people like, oh, this one needs work, or, oh, this one's perfect. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, talk to the people. And what you guys prioritized, even though you guys literally during this interview and in life have your hands full,
yes.
You are fine because you saw the potential for what this home can be that you grow into. And that's exciting.
Mm-hmm.
That's so. What was the negotiation process like for you?
In regards to just closing on the house, or just, okay. So
the first part, getting the house.
Negotiation, I feel like it was pretty smooth, just negotiation wise. With that, we kind of, I guess it was a day on the market, if I remember correctly. So with that, we were talking to them, the realtors, and they came out immediately, got us on FaceTime, walked around the house, did a little video as well, and sent it to us. They let us know that there were a lot of people already looking for the home. So we kind of strategized in the aspects of that. The next day, I guess, let me take it back a little bit. So that day, before even seeing the house, to be honest, we put in the offer.
So they went and gave you a reconnaissance, or had you already looked at the neighborhood? Had anyone seen the house, or did you do what we call a blind offer because you love the neighborhood?
We had hands on, I guess, what am I trying to say here? Our realtor came in and gave us a FaceTime video when they had an open house.
Yeah.
So we did see that. But we kind of knew a little bit of the area. We hadn't necessarily physically been there. We came the day after we put in the offer. And it was kind of blind, but we did know it had the checks that we needed. It was a ranch style, which was kind of hard to find. There were a few different, I guess, other houses that we'd seen close by, and we knew we wanted to kind of stick in the Palmer Park area. So that was kind of another selling point real quick. And since we knew there were a lot of people coming in and already viewing the house, we wanted to kind of make that fast move since we thought it was a good potential.
And because you had built the trust with, you guys have talked about how important it is to have the right real estate team with you. Because you'd already built that trust, you weren't looking at them as door openers, and you guys had the relationship to realize this one was going to go fast. Because if you don't have that relationship with someone, a lot of times if you just call them, they'll be like, yeah, we'll go see it next Tuesday, and it's already gone. So for you guys getting in there quick and putting the offer in, now you said there were a lot of people looking at it. Did you get in a bidding war? Were there multiple offers on the property?
Not that I'm aware of quite yet. Do you remember any? Sorry. I don't believe there were very many offers that I recall. I think it was within 24 hours is when, by the time we pretty much saw the house, we were under contract. Right?
Yes.
Right. So with that, it could have been because we did work in our closing costs. So we offered higher than the selling price, or the listed price. So it could be a mixture of that. We also did strategize with our realtor and did a limited scope inspection as well. And that was just
Right.
because we had them already come in and kind of look at things. We had that, like you said, that connection, that trust. And then we were
Yes.
able to, because of that, come in the next day. And we wanted to make sure it was something we did want to proceed with that much more.
That makes perfect sense. And breaking it down, the ability for you to be able to put an offer quickly on a place 2 hours away was because you had the real estate team that realized that they could get you this place at a deal by getting them in quickly.
Sure.
So that's incredible. Now, Kyle, at one point in our communication, you asked me how long that you would have to wait to refinance because you guys bought when everyone said it wasn't possible for first-time home buyers, with 3.5% down, I might add. That's amazing. Since you've been in, have you looked at refinancing yet? Have you been in a position to refinance, or are you on like that year waiting period?
So we're still considering it. We're kind of like going into this, learning more, we kind of push that back out with refinancing. Our goal is in the next 5 to 7 years, we're going to be making extra payments to our principal during that time.
Yes.
And then refinance because we have a goal of what we want our mortgage payment to be. And so we're hoping in the next 5 to 7 years with the matchup of our principal contributions and rates, we'll hit our mark and just kind of have to suck up a little bit of a higher payment in the PMI for these next, few years.
And all of that is the reason why when people send me like 3 things, they go, my wife makes $60,000, I make $80,000, and we're thinking about buying this $450,000 house at a 6.5 rate. Is that right for us, David? You guys learned in your process that everything could change based on the house. Is it going to be a stepping stone house? But it sounds to me like you guys are digging in there and that's going to be a house forever. Therefore, the way that you approach it financially changes. Now you're going to go after principal reduction. And your way that you're going to get to a lower rate is principal reduction and then find a refinance later because you guys know you're going to stay there.
Exactly. Yep. And that also has made us more comfortable with a slightly higher price point because, what we were wagering is like, okay, we can get into, maybe a more beginner home or, especially with price friendly. And, are like, that's going to be hard to do if we want to be out in 8 years. If we have another kid or if, mom or dad move in, we want to have the room not feel like we're going to need to be forced out. And so seeing this home, it's, it's a ranch style, but it has a full walkout basement because we're on a hill. And we are, comfortable with the higher payment because we know like, if we have more kids or have additional family, we're not going to feel, squeezed in here, limited on room.
It's such a gigantic part of the figuring out what you want to do process. And that's why having a team that knows everything about you is so important. Okay, we've been teasing it all show. What happened? Why didn't you close on Friday and had to wait till Monday?
Yeah, so there's a few things there. But the main reason is, we're doing our final walk around and we noticed, one of the siding pieces above the window, it was like caved in a little bit where that wasn't during our inspection period. So we went and pushed on it and it was soft. And so obviously water damage. And we wanted to make sure, there was nothing on the inside, so that's good. But we wanted to make sure, okay, how bad is it? Is there any mold or whatever? And so ultimately, we talked to their real estate agent and she stubbornly agreed that we would close on Monday while we try to get more people out there to evaluate the situation. Fortunately, it wasn't a big deal. We did have to do some more siding work, but it wasn't at a cost that would be worth us losing the house.
And one of the things I want to make sure everyone understands is that that real estate agent and may have been counting on that paycheck and suddenly it got pushed to next week.
And I think she was actually on vacation in the mountains and had to come back Friday or Saturday when we were getting the additional contractors to look at it. So I think she was banking on, a payday plus vacation that weekend. And unfortunately, I think we might have ruined it.
Life happens between the inspection and the closing. It might only be 8, 12, or 15 days, but life happens. And that's the reason for the final walkthrough. So everyone, your side was all good to be able to push things to Monday. It didn't affect your loan, didn't affect anything with what you needed, right?
No, and kind of going back to one point we already mentioned is having a realtor that is close to the lender, I think was also very key in our situation because our lender was really great at locking our rate at the right times. There were a lot of things going on just politically. And so we got a
Yes.
good rate, and then he just again kept us updated with extending that lock. So I guess there's like 1 or 2 times you can file for a lock extension. And he did have to do that with us delaying our closing.
Yeah, because you guys were probably getting your lock in there, in presidential transition time.
Yep, exactly.
Well, that's one of the things I keep saying it because you guys keep saying the stuff that I preach all the time. But I'm so glad that you guys reached out to me. I'm so impressed with what you were doing with everything you had going on in your life. But that combination, when people just want to find like the real estate agent to open the door and the lender to get me the best rate, you guys had so many things that worked because your people, they worked together. They could handle a change in the closing. They helped you with a pregnant gal 2 hours away, find a home, and then they helped you get a home 2 hours away before the rest of the market could even get to it on FaceTime.
Exactly.
So,
yep.
how were there any? I was going to say something that sounded terrible, and I was going to say that was when my wife was pregnant. There would oftentimes be things that emotionally happened that maybe weren't perhaps big emotional moments, but I had to be quiet because there were hormones happening and my children growing inside her, and the ability for you guys to handle all of this together. It's just so impressive. How's it been? You guys have been in there for 6 months. No, my gosh, have you been in for a year?
Close to it. I guess 11, 10, 11 months.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, just going back to the whole thing with the transition, I mean, I can't take any of the credit. Carla is a trooper there. Like have to give her big props because, like during pregnancy and childbirth, you just want to focus on you and the situation. And she was selfless enough to be like, okay, like this is great for our family. She made those sacrifices and I could not have done that without her.
And it's so exciting because you guys right now are in a position. I mean, is Hayden pulling up and walking around yet? Are we there? Is it coming?
Not walking, crawling and pulling up like nobody's business. And we already have one of those retractable doggy gates to the stairs that go to the basement. So we're at least prepared there and just got outlet covers. And the good thing is, since we moved in, we're taking everything slow. We didn't have a lot of furniture, so it wasn't a lot of baby proofing to do, which was also good.
Well, and now Hayden will soon be able to, enjoy the yard, maybe a little bit on his own and not just in your guys' arms. So this is so exciting for you guys. Well, boy, like I said, I appreciate you and good man, smart man, giving all the credit to her. I do the same thing to my wife all the time. But you guys really must have come in with a plan ahead of time. But it sounds like a lot of things went not according to plan, but you had enough prepared that you were still comfortable to move forward together, even with, in the 3rd trimester. So that's just amazing. Is there anything else that you would like to tell anyone besides, because for me, it's just like, well, you can listen to Kyle, but they're a super family. But is it as hard as everyone thinks, or when you've got the right people, do you feel like you can do it at any time in your life?
Yeah, I think if you have the right people, the right team, you and your partner are on the same page, you can certainly accomplish a lot.
Now she's got Hayden out of the room, so be honest with me. Do you ever hold the 3-car garage thing over her head every once in a while? Like,
no, make jokes.
Honey,
and
we're
I can get a shed. It's fine.
That's a good man. Good.
Yeah, I mean, I can't complain. I would 100% trade our living situation. Would not trade that for a 3-car garage. I don't know if you have your phone on you, but the one that we've been texting on, I sent you a picture of our backyard. And
no, I remember it.
Okay, yeah. We were looking right at the elementary. Every, we get Monday through Friday. We see kids go to school and then come back. and like we're going to be able to just watch him walk to school, and he'll be able to have, you know, the story that, you know, we joke about all our parents having, like they walk to school uphill both ways in a blizzard, you know, drought. He's going to have those stories because he's actually walking to school.
We're in March as we're recording this. What's the weather where you guys are right now?
Yeah, it's getting warmer. We're hitting like mid 60s right now with a few sprinkled in cooler days, but we had some big snowfalls over the winter, which was also cool to see.
Well, then all you do is you ask the family for, you know, 4th, 5th, and 6th birthdays, just snow boots. Kid's going to need them, dang it.
Right. And snow boots, bikes, you know, snowboard, all the fun stuff.
Oh, well, I really appreciate it. And it really was a joy having you guys on. All three of you. Hayden's probably getting a little respite off camera right now. But thank you guys so much, both of you and Carla and Hayden. And we appreciate you guys sharing your story.
Yeah, no, thank you for having us. And again, for putting us in contact with the right people. Could not have done it without you.
You know, I can talk here till I'm blue in the face, but hearing those real stories from Kyle, Carla, and of course, Hayden, who I think added the most to that interview. Thank you so much for those incredible insights. I think you really got to see that a lot of people are so stressed out and they put so much pressure on the process. Yet, as we saw from these regular people just looking to figure out how to buy a home, you can do it from long distance and in your 9th and 10th months of pregnancy. That's amazing. If you've got questions, go to howtobuyahome.com. There's a button to ask David. You can ask me a question, or you can ask me for a unicorn team. And of course, check out the episode guide. Everything you ever want to know about buying a home. We've got titles going back all the way to 2019, and we've covered it all. Now, if you've been a listener for a while, you know that I'm here to uplift you, to empower you, to make you understand. You just haven't been given the information, and the industry's let you down. But now, you know, I don't usually like to do this, but I'm here to shame you. What's your excuse? Carla was 10 months pregnant and bought a home. Get after it. You can do this.
Looking for more DIY education or your own personal step-by-step guidance through the home buying journey? Since 2019, How to Buy a Home has been the #1 resource for first-time home buyers. So visit howtobuyahome.com to get started.